with the best life possible. Her mission is to bring awareness to the current issues facing society with the unprecedented wave of the aging of our population. Imane is an advisory board member of the Triad Committee, which was formed 14 years ago upon the mayor's request to bring law enforcement, local agencies, and volunteer organizations together to help protect seniors from fraud and exploitation. Please join me in welcoming Imane Rose.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow, I don't know about you, but this day has definitely whizzed by for me. Thanks to all the wonderful speakers that came before me for sharing your inspirational stories. I so appreciate listening to all of you. And as I was listening to all of the speakers before me, I realized that we all seem to have a common thread. And I don't think that that's by accident. I think all of us needed to hear it. Sometimes the world doesn't need to be instructed, it just needs to be reminded. And sometimes the lessons that we need to learn are simply remembering what we already know. So when I got the call from Gretchen asking me what I would like to share with you today, I just blurted out perseverance. And then I hung up the phone and went, wait a minute, what just happened here? How was I so spontaneous with my response? Why is it that I didn't give the subject matter a little bit more thought? Well, that second guessing only lasted a minute or two because I know that without perseverance, I would not have the honor to be speaking to you today. And even Albert Einstein said, it's not that I'm smart, it's that I stay with problems longer. And there's a sea of quotes out there about perseverance. So if I may, I'd like to share my story with perseverance with you. I was very fortunate to be born in a family that valued education like no other. Sadly, our value system was being threatened by a civil war. So I would be a prisoner either at home or a prisoner at school. So I missed a lot of school at the beginning of my senior year. Well, my dad had had enough and said enough is enough. So he said to me one day, hey, I'm going to send you to France, enroll you in school. You can finish high school and go to college. Now, to a lot of you in this room, that may sound like it's a wonderful idea. To me, who had gone to an all-girl French Catholic school my entire life, was thinking, oh no, not one more nun. And frankly, I wanted to know what it was like to go to a school with a boy. Had never done that in my life. So I begged, I pleaded, I reasoned, and finally I persevered, and my dad conceded and agreed to send me to the United States, where my mom had lived for 8 years, another story for another day. And he agreed to let me come to the United States. I could learn English, I could come here, go to college, and go back. Well, the day came when my knees literally buckled when I landed at JFK speaking 5 words of English, trying to make a connection from New York City to Michigan. And that day was the beginning of what perseverance meant to me in my life. And I hope that it can resonate for you as well. So those 5 words of English were not necessarily helpful when I enrolled as a senior at Romulus High School in Michigan. I started school, and now it was time for me to navigate my new world. It was so dang frustrating. I couldn't understand anything or anyone. I literally felt as if I had lost all of my senses, as if I couldn't hear, I couldn't smell, it was just miserable. It really felt like heck on earth. I thought, okay, that's it. Just like you said, I have to do something. I'm like, I have to do something. Okay, I have to learn the language. I have to do it, and I have to do it quickly. I hate not knowing what's going on around me. So what do? Oh, I know, I'll make a new friend. Hey, Webster the dictionary. Webster was my best friend. Webster and I had a pretty challenging relationship at first, but with perseverance, our relationship got better and better and better. And then, that wasn't enough. What else do I have to do? I know I will watch TV incessantly. Problem is, everyone seemed to be speaking at such warp speed. Boy, did I wish I had the controllers we have today where you could pause or rewind. Well, I didn't have it. So that wasn't necessarily helpful, but one day I got lucky and I ran across a game show called Password. Now, most of you in this room are probably way too young to remember Password. You do great. It was very simple. They projected a word on the screen, and you had a team of 2 people, and I would try to make you guess what that word is. So they would put parachute on the screen. But the beauty is it stayed on the screen long enough, and there was enough banter between the guesser and the guessee, or however you say that, that I actually started to get grasp of some of the words. So now my 5 words have multiplied. Well, with perseverance, and it wasn't easy, just like it wasn't easy for any of the speakers that have spoken to us before. With perseverance, my English got better. I actually graduated high school, and I attribute a lot of that. I joke about the nuns, but you know, they really taught me how to have really good study habits. It wasn't actually that I had gotten that much better with the language, but the study habits really helped. So I graduated high school and enrolled at the University of Michigan. So perseverance served me then, and it served me not in such a distant past, because our company would not even exist if it wasn't for perseverance. You see, in 2006, my best friend decided to hire me to do business development for a company she owns, and it was a home care agency. Well, I wasn't sure if I really should do this, because you know they say friends shouldn't work together. Well, I will tell you almost 13 years later, bull crap. Who is going to have her back more than I do, and who's going to have my back more than she does? So at the time, I hesitantly accepted her offer with the promise that I will never lose sight of who signs my paycheck. So I started this new job and quickly discovered that people don't really have enough time to train me. So I started researching, what is this new world I'm in? And I kept coming across this wonderful idea of care management. I'm like, wow, the population is aging, we're still solving old problems, you know, new problems with old solutions. So I kept going to Susan, and I kept saying, Susan, hey, have you heard of this life care management business? Yeah, I'll never work in Tulsa. Well, listen, it's really big on the East and West Coast. People in Manhattan are tripping all over each other doing this. It'll never work in Tulsa. Susan, listen to me. Wouldn't it be great to have a company that is so completely independent? It's not governed by anyone. No insurance company, nobody. So when somebody hires us, we can just give them the best life possible, and we can protect them. We can do everything from decision support to being their healthcare power of attorney to actually being their guardian if somebody is exploiting them. It'll never work. Well, I kept just slipping little articles here and there. When she would stay at the office till 8 trying to coordinate all kinds of stuff, I'm like, you could get paid for that. Finally, she threw her arms up in the air and said, okay, fine, we'll try it. So we started dabbling in it, and perseverance helped me. And lo and behold, we started growing a little bit. One day, she came to me and said, hey, I got an offer to sell this home care business. And I said, Susan, sell it. You've earned your stripes, just sell it. She says, well, what about everybody who works for me? I said, don't worry about us, we'll find other jobs. Well, what I didn't know is that she told the new buyers that they can have the home care agency, but this little baby infant company of care management is not for sale. And she looked at me and our director of nursing at the time, Mary, we call ourselves the Three Musketeers, and she said to me and Mary, hey, you two always act like you own the darn company. What do you think? So we closed our eyes, took a leap of faith, opened an office, and prayed that Tulsa would be good for us. And boy, has Tulsa been good for us. So not only have we grown tremendously, but we've also sold 2 franchises. So now we have an office in Oklahoma City, and one of our franchisees in Eastern Oklahoma, Beverly, is also here. So you see, I wanted to impress upon you that it wasn't like that I was the smartest person, or I barely even spoke English when I graduated high school and started college. It was just that I persevered. But I didn't want you to take just my word for it. I started looking a little bit. I know I was right, but I wanted somebody to back me up, you know. So I found this lady, her name is Angela Duckworth. Angela is a Wharton PhD. She left her high demanding job of being a consultant at McKinsey, which is the top consulting company in the States. And she went to teach 7th grade math in the public schools in New York City. Well, she started noticing that her smartest students with the highest IQs were not necessarily the most successful. So she started to dig into it, and she just kept thinking, it's those who are persevering. It's those who are not giving up, like you didn't give up, like most of you in this room won't give up. So she decided this was something worth looking into. So she left her job teaching, went and got another master's degree in psychology, and started going to places like West Point. Her and her team, she formed a team. So she went to West Point and went, okay, what is the predictor of success here? Who's gonna stay? What cadet is gonna stay? What cadet is gonna give up? The spelling bee. She went to private companies, talked to salespeople, talked to the directors of salespeople. Which salesperson is gonna stay? Which salesperson is gonna give up? At the end of years of studies and research, without a shadow of a doubt, she says that the sure predictor of success, more than IQ, more than talent, more than a silver spoon, is actually perseverance and grit. So I'm urging you, the next time you have that other goal, the other achievement, don't let your self-talk say, I don't have enough talent, I don't have enough experience for this position. I may not have, maybe I'm not even smart enough for this position. Remember that, as Angela says, grit and perseverance will trump all of the others, as long as you're realistic. You know, we have to be realistic. You can persevere at something that I cannot be an astronaut tomorrow if I wanted to be. But if you persevere on what you want to achieve, you will achieve it. And remember that it trumps all of the others. And I'm telling you, Angela did extensive study. It is case studies that have been proven. So you can say, okay, great, wave the perseverance wand and I'm going to succeed and everything is going to be fine. Well, perseverance doesn't exist in a bubble by itself. You have to be able to overcome your failures. And we'll discuss a little bit why some of the most successful people in the world, how they overcome their failures. You remember my best friend Webster? Well, Webster and I went from a friendship to dating every single weekend the freshman year at the University of Michigan. Well, despite all of that, I got the devastating news that I was on academic probation. Well, justifiably, so I'd like to go back in time and talk to my counselor and say, what were you thinking telling me to take psychology as an elective? Do you know what that meant? That meant I would look at a sentence and go, I have no idea what this means. Okay, let me look up every single word and try to string the words together. It took me about 2 hours to read the page. Well, no wonder I was on academic probation. But you know what? I thought, okay, I can just give up. This is way too hard. Or I can say, no, I don't care what you tell me. I'm not taking another elective class that has a lot of reading. I'm going to load my schedule up with math and science and chemistry. And that's a little bit more of a universal language. And you know what? I had wonderful years at the University of Michigan. Go Blue. And one day also, I mean, failure can come with humiliation. I'll never forget. I was so intent on going to Baskin-Robbins and ordering my own ice cream cone because I loved ice cream. Loved ice cream when I came. I told my mom, please stay in the car, don't come in with me. I want to just go order the ice cream soon. So I walk in, it's a hot July day, hot in Michigan, it's like 75. And you know, there's a line of people behind me. I get to the counter. Now, I had rehearsed that I wanted a single scoop of strawberry ice cream. But when I got to the counter, the lady behind the counter, she was a teenager like myself at the time, she said, I believe she asked me, do you want a sugar or cake cone? Well, that was not in my vocabulary yet. And I stood there very frustrated, not as frustrated as she was. And the frustration on her face and the people behind me was so overwhelming, I just stood there and tears just started rolling down my cheeks. But you know what? I memorized all 31 flavors of Baskin-Robbins and knew every possible cone I could have, and I went back and got my strawberry, my strawberry thing. And as far as business is concerned, it was great that Susan agreed to give this a try, but now I have to go pitch this new concept to the community. Well, I immediately recognized that estate law attorneys like Kathleen here, who are really great attorneys, are a really good referral source for me. So I started knocking on their door, and one particular law firm I knew would be a really good law firm to go to. Even by the attorney's own admittance today, when I first started going, I literally could get in like maybe 5 feet into the door, maybe 3. It was so frustrating. My colleagues said, never mind, don't go there, they're never gonna give us a referral. Deep in my heart and soul, I went, no, this is good. The reason I didn't give up, because I know it's not just good for my business, it's not just good for the attorney, but it's good for the community. We're gonna be able to safeguard a lot of people if we join forces. So I didn't give up, I persevered again. Next thing you know, I got to the receptionist desk. The next time, a few months later, I got invited to the small conference room, and then the large conference room. And when the day came that she invited me into her office, I knew I had gained trust. And you know, we just did a little analysis, and she is one of our biggest referral sources today. Thank you. But why do some people persevere and some people don't? It's because you have to have Thomas Edison's mindset. You have to separate yourself and your identity from your experiences. It took him 10,000 times to perfect the light bulb. And when he was asked, he said, I didn't fail 10,000 times. I just found another way not to make it work right. So if it was him, if it was Abraham Lincoln, Michael Jordan, Maya Angelou, you name it, the reason that they persevered is because they never looked at their failures as themselves. It was the experiment that failed, not them. So also please remember, as you persevere and as you have to overcome your failures, separate yourself from the failures, and I think it would be easier to overcome. 5 minutes? Okay. Lastly, I would love if you would indulge me, and I would like to read to you, without courage, perseverance can't happen. Without courage, failures can't be overcome. And my biggest courage teacher was my grandmother. Like you, I was raised by my paternal grandmother, and I'm very happy about that. So I just want to read you just a little story that I wrote about her, and how courage has helped me and how it can hopefully help you. So one lesson in particular is tattooed in the fabric of my being. I was about 11 years old. The usual after-school greeting and formalities were out of the way. My grandmother and I settled into our evening routine of me getting homework done and her knitting or crocheting. All of a sudden, the air raid sirens were blaring. The sound of bombs dropping was eerie. Panic-stricken, I looked in my grandmother's directions. To my surprise, she sat unfazed, knitting as if nothing was happening. I could now hear the frantic neighbors running down the stairs from the upper floors of our high-rise building. The tension in the street was so thick you could barely see through it. My 11-year-old self started justifiably freaking out. My grandmother had a different opinion. She lifted her head just long enough to give me a serious look and say with a stern voice, "What are you doing? Get a hold of yourself." I objected and suggested that perhaps we should run. "Pull up a chair and sit next to me," she commanded. The smell of the explosions now accompanied their sound. I sat nervously yet quietly next to my grandmother, praying that any time she will tell me to run, but she did not. She addressed me quietly this time and said, "Listen to me. When under fire, you have to keep a level head. How are you supposed to make a good decision when you're acting like a maniac? Now I want you to start focusing on working on composing yourself. As unbelievable of a request as it seemed, my vulnerability had no choice but to listen. Still shaking like a leaf, I did what she asked me to do and felt a little more in control. In the midst of my practice, the bombing stopped, and I had never felt such relief. My grandmother simply looked at me and smiled. I could tell that she approved of my attempt to regain my calm. We hugged like there was no tomorrow. As she was walking to the kitchen to get our dinner, I was struck by what I had just learned. At the young age of 11, I realized that courage is not the absence of fear. It is not the absence of fear. It is facing the fear and not allowing it to distort your better judgment. So at the age of 17, and this is the last, I said a painful goodbye to the woman who raised me. It was time to go halfway across the world. I now live in the United States, where freedom, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is a daily gift. Despite the blessing of living in the best country in the world, my life continues to require courage. The courage she taught me serves me well. Courage takes on many shapes and forms, and it changes with life's seasons. It takes courage to continuously look in the mirror, make the right decision, work on composing myself. I'm far from exploring the different colors of courage, but in my grandmother's honor, I will forever be its student. So my wish for you is that you persevere, you separate yourself from your failure, and you're always the courage student. So thank you so much for your time.